What's up, YouTube family? In this video, I'm gonna go over some lumbar or low back spinal mobility tips mixed in with some possible hip stuff. Do me a favor before we start. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel or smash that like button for the algorithm, of course. So let's begin in a seated position with your legs out in front. So we're going to work with some nice spinal flexion. This is going to be done eccentrically. It's kind of the reverse of a sit-up. You're going to reach forward to come down, but in the beginning, we're actually going to do it even more regressed. We're going to use our arm to come to the side. So I want you to take your arm to the side, slowly lowering to the elbow, and then reaching across body to lower yourself down. Once you're on the ground, same thing, reach across body, slowly making your way back up to a seated position. Now we can do the other side, taking the hand to the elbow, reaching across body, slowly lowering with control all the way to the floor, and then in reverse, gently bringing ourselves back up. And let's do this a few times. We could turn this into like a horseshoe pattern. I can come down on one side, reaching across, and then over to the other side, coming up in reverse. And ideally, I'd be able to do this down through center, which is something I like to call the zombie flex. So you reach forward to come down all the way. That's the reverse. Then I can lay it out with the shoulders in shoulder flexion, coming through down extension, and now starting to flex my spine. One vertebra at a time, gently finding my way. Now, if that's too hard, you would find your limitation and then come back up through the side. So I'll just show that. You can come down if that's okay. Taking shoulders into extension, into flexion, and begin to extend them. And begin to flex the spine. Cervical, thoracic, maybe you have a little trouble right here, and you could take the arm down, reach across, and then use that side motion to return. All right, let's return back to the spine, nice and slow. And this should feel challenging, but also healthy or good. Let's begin with some kind of cervical, lumbar, and thoracic flexion, which is also known as the dead bug. You're going to pressurize right here in your lower abdominals. It's called intra-abdominal pressurization. And normally, the lumbar spine has a curve, a lordotic curve that comes up. So you're lifting off the floor. I want you to go down and flatten it to the ground. Once it's nice and flat, you can lift your head, that's the cervical flexion, and then maybe if you have some more in you, you would reach forward, that would be thoracic. That would create that nice shell that you have going, and then all the way down to the ground. So we're just doing this dead bug action, or really full spinal flexion. Let's start with the lumbar spine. First, IAP, intra-abdominal pressure, create some tension, push down into the floor, lift your head, cervical flexion, and create thoracic. Hold, giving it for like 5, and gently return. So what we can do is we can make this a little more intense, or we can actually separate it out. If we're having trouble getting the thoracic flexion, we can do a reach up. We can take our arms perpendicular. We can then just reach to the sky and try to hold thoracic flexion. You might be able to hear it in my voice shaking, and gently down. And we can do this maybe 2 or 3 times to get the spine used to flexing in the upper back. Maybe reach and hold. Gently coming down. And for one last one, I'll try to find a nice secure spot and then just keep it stable. It's not like I'm going for it. and maybe I hold for 5, and then gently return. So the full dead bug is really this idea of lifting my feet off the floor and creating this ultimate spinal flexion like a bug, right? A dead bug, but not just lifting my feet like this, because you could totally fake that. This is this flexion. Think of it like you're doing cat pose upside down. So first, pressurize, push down in the lumbar, lifting your head here, and then I'm gonna reach, create that spinal flexion. I'll lift my feet from here and create a nice shell. I can even get small, like I'm trying to protect myself. I can create the bug. I'm working so hard, and then I'm gonna gently release to the floor. And you should feel like you're flexing your spine or creating a shell or the fetal position, which is that natural like go-to when you're in danger. Let's do this again. Pressurize abdominals. Your lumbar that might be lifting, push down. There's 5 vertebrae. You want to push them to the floor. Lifting your head, cervical flexion, reach, thoracic. Now you have that shell going. You might lift a foot if you can, maybe not. Create the stability, the shell, the dead bug. And then in reverse, gently coming down. You could probably hear my voice how strenuous this could be, or you could make it if you want. All right, let's work a little more on your cervical spine, your neck. I want you to elongate your neck. So you're just gonna reach your head through the crown just a little bit, not too much, but enough to make the cervical lengthened. And then from here, we're gonna push down into the floor. Let's say 20% of your power. Let's just begin to push. And it's not like you can really see anything happening, but you should feel the tension in your neck. This is a great isometric. I'm pushing down to the floor for like another 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, and then gently, without moving, release the tension. Maybe a nice 3 deep breath here. Let's begin again. You can readjust, right? Micro adjust if you need it. Push down into the floor with the head. Create the tension in the neck. Maybe 30% of your power this time. Maybe even more, but you're regulating. You're not going too far. Keep it steady and strong for 5, 3, 2, gently relax. Try not to move. All right, and this last one, we're just gonna readjust if you need it. Push down into the floor and squeeze. Create that tension in the neck. You should feel it, maybe a little bit more, or wherever you felt safe for 5 seconds. And let's gently release. We're gonna go the opposite direction. You're gonna lift your head and just keep it up. This is flexion. You don't have to take chin to chest. You could find your end range, that's fine. Just keeping it flexed, maybe turn to one side. So your head is about 10 pounds and you're just weighted in flexion. Keep that going. A few more seconds in rotation. Let's rotate to the other side while in flexion. And just keep the head lifted. You should feel tension, like you're working hard here. 5 seconds. Gently through center. Keep it lifted. 5 seconds more. Almost done. All right, gently come out of this. Let's actually roll to the side to come up. Let's turn this into a little more hip mobility at this point. That should have been a lot of spinal flexion. We're gonna end with a little spinal extension, but in the middle, let's do a quick little hip mobility action. So this is more like a shin box, not the 90-90, and we're not gonna do a long passive stretch here. Make sure that underneath your knees and your ankles, you're feeling protected, and then just come up. As long as that feels safe, you're only gonna go down as low as you feel control. and then maybe 5 to 8. Coming down, dynamically back up, using the power of your hip flexors. And then we're going to switch sides. So you're just going to switch the feet around. You can come back into that shin box, condensed 90-90 position. And then we'll start to come up again. Make sure you're feeling okay under your knees and ankles. You don't have to go low. 5 to 8. And then we're going to come down again. You're going to gently come out of this, and we're going to go right into that spinal extension. So we're going to lay on the belly. And once we come into the belly, we're going to use something called IAP, intra-abdominal pressurization. We were using that before, same on the back, except this time it's on your belly. So you're going to push the belly into the floor, see if you can maintain. And the first part of this is just lift a hand, maybe two. So no back bend, just the pressurization of your belly. Holding this for a few moments. Taking the hands down slow. Release the tension. You might feel like you're kind of holding your breath, but not. You should be able to breathe and talk while you're doing it. So pressurize, push the belly into the floor, lift your arms. Maybe this time reach behind you. Maybe push harder in the belly for the back bend, keep the feet down. Few seconds, you're not going for it, you're just finding it. Slowly come back, return to the floor. The reason I love this back bend is because you're extending with all power. There's no forcing, there's no floor, there's no bind. All right, last one. This time you are going to lift the feet slowly, and you're going to use that to create more lift in the body. So pressurization into the floor. Reach my hands behind me, lifting up, point the toes, and create more. And this is all spine, all extension, all me. And it should be all you. A few more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, gently bring this down. And notice that I could talk the whole time, as much as I'm, a little taxed from that. All right, let's end off with another kind of unique spinal movement, which is really side bending. So we're going to come into this side lying position. So it's kind of like an inside out side plank, what we're going to be doing right now. I have a very slight flexion in my hip, so I'm not fully straight. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the letter K. Now once I have this letter K going, I'm going to lift my upper body, so for a light side bend, and then I'm going to try to lift the feet. And I'm going to hold this the best I can. Basically an inside out side plank. And slowly coming down. There's also that Copenhagen plank where your leg is lifted. This is similar to that, kind of upside down, and very, very active. All right, so one more time. You're side lying, slight fold in your hip, create the letter K. Side bend the upper spine, right? Thoracic and lumbar, all that, the whole back actually, and then try to create, right? A side plank, inside out, 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, gently come down. All right, I'm just gonna switch sides instead of rolling over so you have a better view, but you can just roll over if you want. All right, last one, right? This is where we're ending. You're gonna take this side lying position, small flexion in the hip, create the letter K, side bend, maybe lift the leg, and think of a side plank but inside out. 5, 4, 3, 2, and come down. Taking a moment. And then last one, create the letter K. Side bend in the upper body, spine, lift the leg and create a contraction in your spine, right? Side flex, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then down. Take a breather from that. All right, so we did a bunch of spinal flexion and extension, side bending. We did a little hip flexor stuff to kind of get your hips moving. But we basically moved the spine in a couple different directions. That should have felt really good. Again, I'm Jeff. This is Yoga Framework. Thanks for joining for this little mobility routine for your lumbar spine with a touch of hip flexor. I hope to see you again in the future.